Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the GM. It is your guy, Boulanger, and up next on the GM, we discuss the Baltimore Ravens offense. Do me a quick favor, hit like if it is your first time checking out the GM, hit subscribe. Also, hit the notification bell so that you get updates when we upload new content. Let's talk about it. So, the Baltimore Ravens offense has been an offense that has been up and down, inconsistent, sketchy, skittish, and unpredictable. And we saw just that this past Sunday against Cleveland. And there has been a wide range of opinion, idea, and thought about what went wrong, what needed to happen, why the Ravens lost this game, how much Lamar Jackson is responsible, how much he's not responsible, whose fault it was, so on and so forth. And just like I did the defensive assessment, just considering what went wrong defensively, and I did link that to some of the offensive woes from this past Sunday. I'm going to take the same approach and give an honest assessment. And when I say assessment, I'm not talking about a real analysis necessarily, but just a real assessment of what we have seen over the course of this season and specifically on Sunday. You see, Sunday, we saw a Lamar Jackson who looked shaky. That's my only descriptive I have. I'm not assessing the man, the person. I'm assessing the play from Sunday. Okay. And what I mean by shaky, and shaky is a descriptive that I've seen in the comment section in a previous video concerning Lamar Jackson. So my assessment or my descriptive is in line with what other people have described about Lamar's performance from Sunday. Shaky. Well, what I mean by shaky specifically is Lamar did not seem to be stable behind center. Stable in the context of being decisive with which where he was going to go with the football. Not stable or shaky in the context of whether the defense was going to bring the blitz or retreat into coverage. And most of the time, they just retreated into coverage. Shaky in the context of whether to hand the ball off on a read option or take it himself. Shaky on what to do when it got down to the clutch moments where you saw Lamar take off more with the football. Now, when I say take off more, I'm not talking about every play, but if you guys watch the game or listen to the game or whatever the context you gained the information about the game from, you would see that late in that game, he had a tendency to want to run more. Okay. Uh, Not being stable, taking sacks, which led them to being out of field goal range on back to back plays. Unstable, um, looking um, deep and going deep, but being off target. That's what I mean by unstable or shaky behind center. And what I will say is that this is a common thing with Lamar Jackson, whether a team is blitzing him or whether a team is getting home with the pass rush like Cleveland was doing on Sunday. When he has been under pressure, he gets shaky in the pocket, and you can watch the tendencies happen. You can watch him uh um feel a rush that's not there, and then at other times not feel a rush that is there. You can watch him have a tendency to take off more with the football. You can watch him have a tendency to lock in on a receiver. And you have a tendency that he will kind of put the ball on the ground or put it in harm's way a little more when things around him begin to break down. And I know you may be saying, well, most quarterbacks get a little shaky in the pocket, but the truth is, by the sixth year, which is what Lamar Jackson is in, he should have that pocket awareness more down packed than what we see. Okay. This is not a criticism. This is an assessment of what I have seen over this season when he is shaky or uncomfortable in the pocket. It increases his level of inconsistency in decision making and passing. That's just the truth. Okay. Um, and if we can be real honest, okay, if we can be real honest, we were tricked into thinking that this offense had found its way. Check out my video that comes out tomorrow where I identify why we were tricked, how we were tricked, and in some aspects, what the Baltimore Ravens have to do to get this offense where it needs to be. Okay, that'll be tomorrow's video. But I think that what we saw from this Ravens offense holistically is not brand new. We were kind of given a increased measure of hope about the potential when we saw them break out against Detroit and break out against Seattle and do okay against Arizona. But when we really look at the season as a whole, Lamar Jackson and this offense have never really found their true way. And something that helps out this conversation today is the video that a lot of people have been buzzing about and a lot of Ravens content creators have been talking about is the first take criticism. Now, what they saying was criticism. What I'm talking about is an assessment, but the first take criticism of Lamar Jackson and his performance on Sunday. Let's take a listen to what they say and then we'll break it down.
Well, I think what has happened, Molly, is that when they win games and Lamar doesn't play particularly well, you say, oh, but they win. Stephen A., how many times in your 25, 30-year career have you said, well, the guy did this, but they won, Stephen A.? Yeah. Mike Shanahan told me you never accept anything in a win you wouldn't in a loss. And we saw this in Pittsburgh. They go into the fourth quarter with a lead, and what happened? A pick and a fumble. Oh, Shannon, but the receivers dropped the ball. You see them go into the fourth quarter with a lead against Indy. They lose that ball game. They had a 14-point lead, a 97.1% chance of winning that ball game, and they gagged it off. Now, all of this isn't on Lamar. Because when you go into the fourth quarter with a lead, we had given this defense so much credit. Remember, they had been stifling. They were number one against points allowed per game. And then you allow the Cleveland Browns to come back, and Deshaun Watson was 14 of 14 in the second half. Yeah. That's unacceptable. But what you cannot do is turn the ball over.
Now, let's take into consideration what Shannon Sharp just said. What exactly did he say was incorrect? Okay, as it pertains to Lamar Jackson and the offense. I put it in that context, Lamar Jackson and the offense, because Lamar is not playing offense by himself. He does have linemen in front of him. He does have running backs behind him. He does have tight ends and wideouts to the sides of him. So he's not playing offense by himself. But I consistently want to make Lamar Jackson 100% responsible, not for the entire offense, like you're going to hear Stephen A. do, or maybe even a little bit of what you hear Shannon do, but I make Lamar Jackson 100% responsible for his role as the quarterback. He's 100% responsible for his decision making. He's 100% responsible for his ball placement. He's 100% responsible for his accuracy. He's 100% responsible for whether he tucks it and runs or gives it uh, to the running back on a read option. Those are the things he's 100% responsible for. Once he puts the ball in the air, okay? He's not responsible for the wind trajectory. He's not responsible for if it's freezing outside and the ball stays flat because those are the conditions. He can't control the conditions. He's not responsible if the ball hits the wide receiver's hands and he drops it. He's not responsible if the ball hits the wide receiver's helmet. He's not responsible if the ball bounces off the wide receiver's pass, but he is responsible for overthrows. He is responsible for underthrows. He is responsible for putting the ball on the ground. That's what I make him responsible for. And I will be consistent in doing that. You see, for those people who are going to come at me for this video, if you really love Lamar Jackson like you say you do, you would make him responsible for 100% of his role as the Baltimore Ravens quarterback. And that's what I hear for the most part. Shannon Sharp says responsibility for his play at quarterback. But let's keep listening.
I'm going to turn it over to you, Dio and Stephen A., but I want to read you something.
Go ahead.
Do you realize that Lamar Jackson has thrown just as many touchdowns as Mac Jones?
Wow.
He and Mac Jones have thrown the same number of touchdowns. Lamar Jackson has fumbled the ball 10 times. He's lost 5. Do you realize Lamar Jackson has as many turnovers as touchdown passes? But see, when we call that stuff out, Stephen A., oh, y'all hating. Y'all want the narrative. Y'all trying to bring a brother down. Yeah. See, I don't do conjecture. I don't do innuendo, and I don't do speculation. Those are facts. You can go look them up at your choosing. But Lamar Jackson has been up and down, and it's been masked because they're winning. Now that they didn't win, and you see what has happened.
Now, those statistics given by Shannon Sharp, you can't really argue with. 10 touches and 10 turnovers are what they are, right? And 10 and 10 makes you what? An average quarterback. Now, I know Lamar Jackson's skill set, his talent level, his explosiveness, his ability to do things other quarterbacks can't do is top notch. I will never, never, never take that away from him. But the fact of the matter is, this offense has been average at best. And when I say offense, I'm talking about holistically. But the Lamar Jackson factor is a real thing. You see, because you can't talk about this Ravens offense without talking about Lamar Jackson when he's played 10 out of 10 games. Okay? You see, I'm assessing the whole performance of the season, not just what happened in week number 10. I've said week after week after week, when Lamar Jackson's played good, I'll talk about that he's played well. But I'll also every week talk about some things we need to clean up. In every victory, I've talked about things we need to tighten up on. And here we are in week 10, still having the same type of conversation about what things need to be cleaned up. Now, we can be mad at Shannon and Stephen A. and whoever else talks about Lamar Jackson. You guys know I've come to his defense more than a little bit. But the fact of the matter is, he's played just a little above average. And if this defense was any worse, what I mean by worse is that if it was just an above average defense versus a good to great defense, we would have a worse record because the offense has not held up to their end of the bargain. I've said before, it's a good thing we caught CJ Stroud and the Texans on game 1 and not later on in that season, because we would have had some more trouble with that team. Let's finish up the clip from First Take, and then we'll finish up our conversation.
The fact of the matter is that, like Shannon said, he's got 10 touches, he got 5 interceptions. He's fumbled the ball about 10 times, lost about 5 fumbles this year. He threw 2 interceptions yesterday, including a pick 6, okay? Oh, by the way, and we got to pay attention to that. You got to throw the ball over your damn offensive line, knocking somebody upside the head in the helmet. Throw the ball. Get your form right if you got to. Throw it over the damn line of scrimmage for crying out loud. We see some of the decisions that he's making. Now, Lamar Jackson is an absolute stud. I had him as an MVP candidate, top 3 MVP candidate coming into this game. This is not a question about the greatness of Lamar Jackson, Shannon, Dio. Here's the point, though. At some point in time, you played in the NFL. Obviously, we know what you've done, Shay. Here's the deal. Do you play to win games or do you play to win the championship? What are you playing for? At some point, you're playing to win the chip. Because we know what Lamar Jackson is. Why? He's getting the $260 million for a reason. Okay? We know he's a former league MVP. We know what he brings to the table. We know he wins the vast majority of his games from September through December. It's about what we're projecting you're going to be able to deliver in January. You got the Cleveland Browns coming in here, got an elite defense. Y'all still managed to put up 33 points. What happens? You convert 2 of 8 times on third down conversions. These are problematic things. When you're sitting up there and you're throwing 2 interceptions, you're turning the football over. That's a problematic thing. I'm looking at Lamar Jackson and I'm saying, excuse me, 71.5% of your passes you completed coming into the game. But it's 56.5% completion percentage when it's against Cleveland. I got a problem with that because I'm looking for you to show up when it's called upon you to do so, which is against a division rival. And I think that you did it yesterday.
He scored 31 points.
What
It
did
was
you
a
say?
14-point.
They should have won the game, no question.
No, take
I
that back.
love
He
you.
scored 20. He scored 24. They got a pick 6 on the very first possession. Did
Okay,
you forget
24.
that part?
24.
Okay,
24 versus the number 1 defense in the NFL.
Okay.
I love you. For you to sit here and say that he needs to throw the ball over the line of scrimmage on the pick 6
No, I'm
is ludicrous.
I'm just saying when you knock the guy upside the head and him when it hit the helmet, right?
How about
You're not Baker Mayfield. You're not Kyler Murray.
the guy jumps in the air?
No,
right?
I thought they hit. I thought they hit helmet first.
That's last week. That's last week.
No. I'm talking about what I was.
No. The pick
Okay,
6.
Okay.
He's throwing a ball to Ricard in the flat. The defender jumps up. Ball gets. But we call that a BBB. Bad break, bro.
Okay.
Ain't nothing we could do about
Okay.
that. Now the first interception I give you, the one earlier in the game, that's a bad throw. There's miscommunication there or something. It's just a bad throw. But to sit here and say like that performance is concerning, I'm way more concerned about their defense than I am Lamar's performance. Lamar scored 24 versus a really good defense. By the way, 2 more drops. One which is a huge fourth quarter drop. So like we can't live in this world where if they win and Lamar plays good, he's in our MVP conversation, and then because of a unfortunate play in our defense, and I said this last week against Baltimore's defense, they're really good. They haven't played a dude at quarterback. And Deshaun wasn't a dude yesterday. He made some play with his legs and athletically. Yeah. But to have a 14-point fourth quarter lead and not have a closer on their defense is way more of the conversation than is Lamar's performance concerning.
Now, the real truth is all 3 of these guys are right in their own measure. Stephen A is right because he makes Lamar Jackson responsible for what happens offensively. Shannon Sharp is right because he's attempting to make Lamar Jackson responsible for what he does as the quarterback of the Ravens. And then Dan Orlovsky is right simply because he tries to pinpoint that the Ravens had a 14-point lead and the defense didn't hold up. Okay. But here's where I'm going to combine my last piece of this conversation and try to include everybody's perspective. You see, yes, the Baltimore Ravens did have a 14-point lead, but the truth of the matter is 7 of those points came directly from the defense, and you can attribute another 7 points from the special teams where they turned over James Prochet, and the Baltimore Ravens got the ball right around the 6-yard line. And in fact, on that particular possession, they were about to mess that up. And I think it was a penalty. I think it was a holding penalty. I believe it was on the Browns where we got the ball with the first down and then we scored on the second play after the penalty. So this offense underperformed all day yesterday. If we're totally honest, this offense only scored 17 points without the defense assistance, excuse me. So we can't just say the defense should have held up. They had a 14-point lead because there would not be a 14-point lead without the defense doing what they needed to do in the first place. In fact, if you take away defense, if you take away the Kyle Hamilton pick 6, it doesn't even come down to those last plays. So the truth of the matter is the Ravens offense has really been lackluster other than 3 of the 10 games they've played. They haven't been consistent and fluid and had a flow. And we've often gone over it time and time again of what this offense needed to do. Okay. Whether it was drops, whether it was miscommunication between quarterback and wide receiver, whether the wide receiver didn't run through the whole route, whether the pass going deep was off target, whatever the situation may have been, whether it was fumbles, whether it was interceptions. This offense has been struggling. This offense is a middle of the road offense. And I think that part of that reason is the play of Lamar Jackson, is the execution by the wide receivers, is the blocking of the offensive line for sure. But I think the other part may just be this offense holistically may not fit Lamar Jackson. You see, this offense is really a mix and match based on John Harbaugh's own testimony. Remember, we heard this live and in color that the Baltimore Ravens were going to keep measure of Greg Roman's run game. So what we have is a Greg Roman run game and a Todd Monken passing game, which is two offenses put into one. That's why you still see the read option and quarterback draws, not as much, right? So I wonder what the offense would look like if Todd Monken had been able to take over the whole offense and just retool the whole thing. I wonder what that would look like. I wonder which running backs would really get more run. I wonder which wide receivers would get more run. I wonder what offensive linemen would have been selected versus the ones who are in place right now. You see, so I wonder what would it have looked like if Todd Monken had to revamp the entire offense and not just a part of it. I think the focus was so heavy on the passing game that we ignored what the run game would have looked like without Lamar Jackson being included. You see, because that's what a real revamping of an offense would be. It would be, what does the run game look like, including the pass game, without Lamar Jackson being a crucial element of that. That's why Lamar Jackson is still leading all quarterbacks in rushing the ball. It's because he's still heavily involved in the run game, which is a part of the Greg Roman thing. So you have a mix and match offense, which could be contributing to a lack of fluidity in this offense. We still haven't seen the offense speed up, which is what we were promised in the offseason. We still see a slow, methodical, trotting type offense. So I don't think it's just Lamar Jackson, but I do think because he is the QB, that he is a good portion of what this offense um, um, what the offense troubles are. You can't talk about the Baltimore Ravens offense and their woes offensively without including Lamar Jackson. You can't leave him unscathed and talk about everything and everybody else. And so I don't do that. I make him responsible for what he's responsible for. So let me know what you guys want me to know. Stay tuned for tomorrow's video where I talk about why the Baltimore Ravens look like they look offensively in more games than not, and how we were tricked to thinking that they had got on track. I'm your guy Boulanger, and I'm out.